species. And again, we don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, right?
Right.
The second milestone is to establish causality. And this is exactly what we're doing right now. We're trying to use animal models to see whether if we transplant bacteria from people with fibromyalgia into germ-free mice, mice that do not have a microbiome, if these mice will develop symptoms. Because if they do, that will mean that these bacteria are sufficient to cause the symptoms, and that will show causality, which is a really important thing. And this hasn't been published yet, so I have to be careful about it, but I can say that we see some very encouraging signals that demonstrate that there probably is a causal role for gut bacteria in the pathogenesis of fibromyalgia. So this is a very important step in the way.
Wow.
The third milestone would be to then try and establish the mechanisms that allow bacteria that live in our gut to affect systems that are away from the gut, you know, in the brain, in the spinal cord, maybe.
The nervous system.
Yeah, absolutely. All of the systems that modulate our pain, and that we know that are affected in fibromyalgia and in other conditions of chronic pain. So this is also quite challenging, but we have a few, leads that have also been demonstrated in other what's called gut-brain axis conditions. So, for example, the immune system is a very important link between the gut and the bacteria that live in the gut and our central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. So this is something that we're looking into. And also what you mentioned, metabolites that are secreted, that are metabolized and secreted by the gut microbiome into our bloodstream. And that way they can reach distant organs. So, for example, short-chain fatty acids, but also bile acids. And just between parentheses, the fact that you do not have a gallbladder, that it doesn't mean that you don't have bile acids, because they're secreted by the liver.
Right.
So
they're just not getting concentrated and able to break down the
right. Right. So they would be a little bit different, but they're still there. So that's a good thing. And the last milestone, and this is maybe the one that you're asking about, is the clinical applications, right? How do we translate what we've learned into really helping people? Because up till now, it's just our curiosity, but we really want to be helping people. So this is the last milestone. And as clinicians, as a physician, this is the thing that I would be most interested about. And I can tell you that we're now running an experiment here in Haifa, a pilot experiment in which we are doing a fecal microbiome transplantation from healthy women to women with fibromyalgia. And it's very preliminary. We're just recruiting a dozen women, but we see some very promising results. And this is something that we're very excited about. I hope that by the time that we finish the analysis, we will be able to say more about that. But it seems that the entire pathway, association, causation, and mechanisms, and clinical application, it seems that there's something there.
And I've read up on fecal transplantation. A lot of people may not have heard of that. I think that when I first read about it, I was like, I'm not real sure I would do something like that. But when you understand what a healthy microbiome of one individual could potentially do to benefit the very unhealthy microbiome of someone who's ill and in chronic pain, this is something that many people may consider if they have an understanding of it. And so I'm glad that you're doing that as part of your research as well. You only have one life, and I feel like my quality of life since my 20s has not been very good. And I am just very grateful for you. Very grateful. And it may not, I may not be able to benefit from this in my lifetime because, like you said, it's a process. But if I can assist in getting this information out there so that someone else can potentially in the future benefit from it, that is all that's wonderful. I just love to discuss these types of topics because so many people could benefit from it. And but I'm of course for myself, I always feel like I'm in a rush to heal myself because I want my life to be good just for a little while, just for a moment. Um, and so for me, I'm on like this rapid race for my life because I know the
No,
effects it's had on
I'm
me.
an optimist. I think that you will benefit in our
And
lifetime.
I hope so.
And if I'm just looking at what has been achieved in the past 5 years, I think
Mhm.
that we can be really optimistic.
That's wonderful to hear. That's wonderful to hear. Um, One question I have for you, and this is, I think I mentioned in the email I sent you that one of the things that I had been looking into was, and this is kind of off topic a little bit from the subject that we're discussing, but I think potentially related, and I'd like just your thoughts on it. Um, and please let me know when you need to go.
No?
Okay. One in my journey for looking to better my health, of course, diet is the first thing that I looked into. And I believe that I've gotten some, taught myself a little bit of information that could be helpful. But I learned about secretors and non-secretors, and I learned about how you absorb the blood antigen in the mouth while you are chewing. It just goes through the body and it reabsorbs it. It starts the digestive process, and that's why you want to chew your food really well and all those things. And only a small percentage of the population are considered non-secretors, that we don't secrete that into our mouth. And of course, I read, see, what is the cause of this, and why would someone not be able to do this process? And a lot of it has to do with um, being breastfed and getting those really good antibodies that you need as a newborn. And for me personally, I had trouble breastfeeding, and I was put on a lot of different formulas that made things worse. I was constipated at a day old, 2 days old, and had a lot of trouble. I also have more small intestines than most people. So, of course, I guess it takes longer. But at the end of the day, I was able to find this product. It's human milk oligosaccharides and fucosilactose. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And so this is just freeze dried, and I I'm I can't tell if what helps me and what doesn't. And I really try hard to put in one thing at a time into my body to see how it reacts. Um, do you do you think, based on what you've seen, and you maybe haven't seen enough, but do you think it's possible that people who maybe did not get breastfed or were not properly able to nurse as a baby, do you think that that could establish the positive or negative microbiome in the gut? And maybe it goes back to being in the womb, but I always like to know, try to figure out what maybe the cause could be for all of this. And I may never know that answer, but I'd love to know if you have any thoughts on it.